Princess India here for the 99 and the 2000 and whatnot or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm here with your Woke November recap as we prepare to go into our December readings. And literally as I was sitting here before I turned the camera on, because I'd be lying if I said that this recap was probably just as deep as everybody's reading for the month of November. Totally be lying if I didn't say that as a disclaimer first. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I just realized the easiest way for me to sum up, not necessarily the purpose, but I would say more or less the experience of our good old woke November, was coming into the awareness that we're shifting from autopilot to manual, right? So if you think about like Tesla, you know, the Tesla can ride on autopilot. Majority of us drive cars that are automatic. We're totally skipping over that. We're going from autopilot, you sleeping in the driver's seat, which isn't a good idea. It's neither here nor there. And going literally to driving manual, right? Meaning that you're the one who's in control of the gears shifting, in so many words. So that message would be our umbrella. Our two tiers that come out from under that umbrella are what fruit are you eating, life or death, which I think with this message, Virgo would resonate a lot with this. And after I kind of give you guys a brief overview, I'm going to go through pretty much the cliff note of each sign, which is literally a sentence for each sign. But that's the first lesson, and this is going to pretty much talk about the emotions and the whys and things of the sort, and like the root of the problem for all 12 signs. And then the second portion is going to go into, I call it the blueprint, right? Which is telling you guys so many words, what you would want to take from the energies from this month to bring into December, and how that's going to help you guys building going forward. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up with you guys reflection questions for the month. So, starting with our signs and whatnot or whatever. And I have a few of them out of order, so don't judge me. But anyway, the first sign, of course, Aries. And the overall theme with you guys reading was chaos and confusion. And I wrote set free. Where do we go from here? And those of you who saw the message that was on the community tab, the message that I put out months ago, and the link to it is in the community tab, the earthquake. If you guys have not already watched that, I would most certainly suggest that you do, because I think that would help you guys this month with making sense of things. But so much, what I really gathered from Aries reading this month is there's chaos, confusion, there's calamity. There's been a level of you guys being in a sense of bondage or being trapped somewhere or with someone. Now that you guys have been released from the proverbial prison, the thing to reflect on going forward is, where do we go from here, right? And that's a part of the overall theme for everyone with this wake-up call that's happening with everyone, right? And that's where I say it goes from autopilot to manual, because it's more or less for all 12 signs, having been in a state where we've been doing, building, and like what came out in Leo's reading, not necessarily being privy to the why we're doing what it is that we're doing. So the theme you're going to see play out is doing, wake up call, and realizing that we have a choice to do other than what we've been. For Taurus, we have seeds of discord, war with self, and thus war with others, right? And your truth versus their expectations is pretty much the main thing to gather from Taurus's reading this month. So we talked about the contortionist and everything in the vision that I had for the collective of Taurus. And I also said that all signs could benefit from watching the Taurus read, just because I see a connection with the signs that come out and how that kind of relates to everyone. And I feel this is really because of the Taurus and Uranus energy. But it's more or less healing this discord or this war, this conflict within oneself that may often than not be projected onto other people, has a lot to do with choosing between two paths, which is your truth versus theirs, and which one is more important to you. Of course, you know you have free will to choose which way you want to go with that. But anyway, Next, I'm just going to put them in order now. We have Gemini. And for Gemini, we have abandoning conflict for union, interdependence, and balance between extremes. So with Gemini, we talked about the discovery of the middle road. And I likened that to the twins and how, the running joke with Geminis is always like the good twin and the evil twin. And more often than not, many people can feel as if they have to choose between the two. But everything you guys endured this month, the purpose of the experience was to marry these two extremes and thus birthing the middle road. So a third option that wasn't previously seen. For my Cancers, we have what you guys should have gathered. Well, I'm not going to say should have gathered, but the most important point to gather from the reading is that every hero has an arch nemesis. And this month, Cancer's arch nemesis is revealed, right? Now, for Cancerians, this can play out two different ways because it's either the realization that a situation or a person would be toxic. So a person who's kind of undermining, and I'm going to get into that when I talk about this overall energy. So it's more or less like an arch nemesis in the form of a person that's undermining your success. Or for other Cancers, it's the realization that that arch nemesis is oneself, meaning one's lower self or lower mind, ego, and things of the sort. And then for Leo, we have Release the Beast, rediscovering passion, purpose, and the why, exiting autopilot, and identifying pride, control, legalism, and dogma, and how these things influence your life. So what we're talking about with Leo, and everything this month has taken a very like biblical tone in a sense. And for Leo, if I were to sum it up easily, it's more or less like those false idols being blocks in your life. So the thing that you guys have been on autopilot in is being in service to these false idols. And it's more or less getting that wake up call, realizing that you're, serving a specific dogma, so to speak, or staying true to a certain belief system or a way of doing things or way of being or idea, concept, what have you. And doing that for so long that one has forgotten why it is that they're doing it in the first place. So it's more or less birthing that life force energy back into your doings. And then for Libra, we have sounding the trumpet, wake up call, and dark distractions revealed. That's something else I'm also going to get into with the general energies. Is the thing that I notice for all signs is all of the conflicts, all of the chaos, all of the disappointments and toxicities and, anything low vibe that all 12 signs have experienced this month is very much intricately related to dark distractions. And I'm going to get more into that in a bit. For Scorpio, I have the best revenge is indifference, right? Many people, and I know one of my friends said this the other day, she was saying the best revenge is success. And ironically, I was going to the grocery store, and the thing that I heard is the best revenge is indifference. And that means a complete disconnect, meaning that it's not an investment one way or the other. So if we personify this would be, if a Scorpio was beefed out with somebody, like a boss fired you or somebody dumped you or whatever, it wouldn't be if this person's life falls apart, you feel vindicated in some way. It's like, you got your karma, right? That's not the best revenge. Nor is, that person being successful and you being like, why are they getting blessed and I'm not? Because all of those are going to create two sides of the same coin of a low vibrational emotion. You know what I mean? Because on this end, it's like haughtiness and pride and putting you to be a victim of such. And then on the other side, it's, entitlement and self-blame and so on and so forth. So the way that we heal that discord is through indifference, where it's the release of the situation, circumstance, people, or person. And it's literally an indifference. When you completely disengage, it doesn't matter one way or the other if this person succeeds or fails, because it's neither here nor there to you, because it's no longer a part of your life nor anything that you give energy to. So wrapping that all up, The best revenge is indifference, meaning you know you've healed, you know you've gotten over it when you literally don't care one way or the other. And that is the best revenge. And it goes on to say, taking your power back via the mind. And in parentheses, I have thoughts. So that ties into what I was saying in the sense of how you give something energy is literally the fact that you're thinking about it and you even care in the first place. So it's you guys gaining your power back and stepping into alignment with your success via regaining control of your mind and not allowing, other people or past disappointments to lease space in your thought space, right? Now for Sagittarius, I have hope is a secret weapon, a key to freedom. So what we're really talking about here is whatever it is that specifically in your own life, if you're a Sagittarius or it's anywhere in your chart, what you guys have faced this month, the way out is hope in the future, hope in a tomorrow. And how that's given to you is knowing your power of choice, knowing that we are creating our reality every moment that we're making a choice, right? So much like the vision that I saw for Sagittarius, it's not so much fixating on what's happening right now, because the present is merely a byproduct of the past. So I like to tell my clients a lot that every single choice that we've made in our past has created our present, right? So we're very much a co-creator and have a part in that, because even if we don't have complete dominion over external circumstances, we still have control over how we choose to respond to them. So for Sag, I feel that it's a renewed hope in that realization, and realizing no matter how stagnated or how imprisoned one may feel, it's knowing that one choice or a collection of choices or a collection of choices in another direction from the one that you've been walking up to this point is actually your, get out of jail free card, so to speak. For my Capricorns, we have balancing balancing action and inaction. And that's pretty much my very Taurian, practical, down-to-earth 3D way of saying how one balances divine masculine and feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? So if we look at it more or less as the archetypes of like the Empress and the Emperor, the Empress is more or less the divine inspiration, the idea, right? And the Emperor is us taking action on that idea and birthing it into the physical realm, into form. And that's something that Capricorn would be, should be, ideally could be coming into this month. And then I have belief in something greater than yourself. And the specific thing I was told to put after that was the prodigal son / daughter. So wherever that falls for you, I'm just saying, moving right along. For Aquarius, that had the bomb reading. And I'm only saying that because I'm talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that came up in your reading, but that's neither here nor there. But identifying your blocks and to, again, give a very practical, tangible, Taurian reason for what the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse really represent in a very 3D kind of way. It's confusion, conflict, lack mentality, and stagnation, and how, they talk about in Revelations about the 4 seals being broken. It's more or less, each of these seals would be a metaphysical block, right? So if you want to look at the 7 seals as your 7 chakras, it's like these 4 things are one or all of them, but one always leads to the other. Confusion always leads to conflict, and then a lack mentality, and then thus stagnation. The father of all of these would be fear, but it's more or less Aquarius seeing how these 4 things have become a prison. So what we're talking about for Aquarius is, because the whole purpose of everything it is that we're doing with low vibrational energy is transmuting it into love or light energy, so a higher vibrational frequency. So we're talking about transmuting these 4 things into the higher vibrational form of it, right? So we're talking about, from confusion, we're talking about clarity. With conflict, we're talking about peace. With lack, we're talking about abundance. And with stagnation, we're talking about flow, in so many words. And for some reason, I'm being told to remind Cancer. I hope y'all watching all of this and not skipping through. I'm being told to remind Cancer of the important, I don't even remember that I said that until just now. I said something in Cancer's video about how If you lose yourself in creativity, you can be found again in flow. So Aquarius people, if you have Cancer in your chart anywhere, that's of some relevance. But it's re-entering flow. That's how you get out of stagnation. Anywho, Pisces, we have removing the scales from your eyes. The scales, metaphysically, and when I talk about scales, I don't mean like, like Libra scales. I mean scales like, reptilian scales. You know what I'm saying? Low vibrational mind, all that good stuff. Don't you love how all this ties in? So anywho, so with scales, these are representative of rejection, shame, hurt, insecurity, fear, self-righteousness, legalism, and, mindless support of dogma. And the other thing that was important with this is at the end of Pisces reading, I was telling them that it would be important for them to watch Leo and Scorpio. So the thing that I find is that the elements that came up in Leo and Scorpio's reading are both two sides of the same coin. So I feel that Pisceans, the thing that you guys are coming into the awareness of, I feel it's either what Scorpio was grappling with or what Leo was grappling with. And both of those things, why I say two sides of the same coin, is one is an external manifestation. The other is an internal manifestation of the same core issue, right? Now, getting into what the core issue is, what fruit are you eating, life or death, right? The feelings that have been consistent throughout all signs this month is confusion, distraction, feeling weighed down, feeling stressed, discouraged, feeling separated from others, or like alone in so many words. And then the way that I surmise all of these is hell, right? So it's like hell on earth in so many words. And that's the thing that we're awakening to. I joked during Scorpio season on Halloween that, it was a joke for me. I don't know if anyone else knew I was joking, but whatever. But I said in a post on Instagram that the realization that many would come to is not that they're dying, in a process of dying, or about to die, proverbially speaking, meaning that in the sense of transformation, it's the realization that they're already dead, right? And that's kind of where all of this wraps up here. The big epiphany and the big wake-up call is that one is dead, but dead in some area of your life, right? It's dead in the sense of meaning lack mentality. It's dead in the sense of meaning stagnated, that there's no growth, there's no movement, there's no ascension, there's no upward mobility. And that can be with oneself, via mindsets, friendships that are taking more away from you than they're adding, relationships, jobs, so on and so forth, right? And I say, so that's in essence how we cultivate a personal hell. And I was saying that the definition of hell is the absence of God, because these things end up becoming those proverbial towers that separate us from light to where we feel completely like abandoned and so on and so forth. Another thing that's important this month that's revealed for all 12 signs, like I said, is the revealing of dark distractions. And that's more or less like low vibrational energies, like very dense kind of energies that are very oppressive in nature. And the archetypal theme of this is the lovers and the devil, and the devil being representative of that bondage that we're in, and how the lovers card is representative of that wake-up call that reminds us that we have a choice to choose what fruit we've been eating. So putting that together is more or less saying, up to this point, we've been building, we've been eating, right? Two different ways, taking actions on things. But we've been doing it blindly. We've been doing it not necessarily fully aware or cognizant of what it is that we're doing anymore. At one point in time, we knew why we were fighting for this or trying to be this or trying to obtain this. For some of us, it's coming through a spiritual revelation in the sense that we're ascending in consciousness and awareness. So it's certain things that you did when you were low vibrational that you still may be doing. And you're like, oh my gosh, why do I do that type of deal? You know? And then how that relates to, I'm not going to creep y'all out, but I've been using this whole Revelations theme just because it's easier for me to explain. But I said this wake-up call is more or less like the tribulation and a proverbial purgatory in a sense. So if you go to the whole story of like the rapture and stuff like that in Revelations, how I'm seeing the energetic signature of this is if the people who were aware or enlightened, or whatever word you want to use, people who are woke, we can use that word. So the rapture happens, right? So all of these people knew, it's like, oh, all this stuff is about to go down. So it's like you ascend or transfer timelines, whatever terminology you want to use. Then you have another group of people who are, and that's where that relates to the earthquake video I was talking about that I put out during Aries season, was because the two people on the mountain, like I said, there's a group of people at the top of the mountain, but their work still isn't done. But then you had people who were at the base of the mountain and they were aware, but their legs were stuck, so they couldn't go like ascend up the mountain. And what's happening is the earthquake sets the people at the base of the mountain free so they can begin to ascend the mountain. So there's a level of awareness, but there was something that was a proverbial block preventing them from ascending the proverbial mountain, in so many words. So that's more or less the energy that I'm talking about. And then it says, many of us have been blinded to what we are building. And what blinded us? And it's emotional wounds. And these are things that I talked about with Pisces as scales. Emotional wounds caused by rejection, shame, hurt, insecurity, fear, self-righteousness, religious spirits, legalism, and dogma, which are all the people who've been sending me hate mail. Just saying. I mean, not all of that, but I mean the whole religious spirit thing. Y'all know about that if y'all watch the videos. Anywho, and the thing that I wrote down is, if one doesn't heal, one attempts to re-empower via pseudo power. Holding on out of fear, which is the Four of Pentacles energy I talked about in another video, and building towers to protect us from experiencing disappointments again. And this manifests in others as dark distractions attempting to take us off track. What you focus on, you give life to. It manifests in us as thoughts, Nine of Sword energy, dark, negative, accusing thoughts. And the important thing to note about all of this and why all of this is coming up is because words and thoughts are a form of spirits or life force energy. Well, I can't even say life force because this would be like death force, but it's like it's a force of energy, right? And you guys may have heard me say before that how we birth things into this realm is via the words that we speak, because words are nothing more than spirit encased into sound. So it's how we bring what exists in us that's eternal, right? Like the heaven within us being containers of, you know, or aspects of God or containers of the universe, divine, however you want to look at it. The way that we birth things into this realm is via our mouth, right? And those of you who research things like this, you know how powerful frequency and sound is to create form in the 3D realm. So it's very important for all 12 signs to understand the importance of what you're thinking, because you will always speak what you think. You know what I mean? Our thoughts are what it is that defines who it is that we are. So that's the reason why we're always talking about mindsets and our thoughts. And if you guys listen to the poem that I put up a couple of days ago, that's one of the things that I said in there. The only predestination is in our thoughts. It's like how you ultimately end up, whether you're existing in hell in this life, it's all about your mind. And that's really where the battle is occurring, right? And much of our truth is lost in logistics and political correctness. It's time to change course, not to blame others, right? So the whole purpose of this month, and what I mean about that whole change in course thing and not blaming other people, is, and another thing with the whole truth being lost in logistics, that's where like the whole video that I put up talking about how all of this was a lesson for all of us, like all the hate mail and stuff that I got for the first video that I put up about pride coming before a fall, is because a lot of times, like, I'm a firm believer that God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, speaks through everything and everyone, whether it's a song on the radio, whether it's repeating numbers as a license plate, it's a homeless person asking you for $1 and just so happens to say something very profound, whether it's through a YouTube video or a book, it doesn't matter. It's like spirit is always speaking in a myriad of different ways, right? But a lot of times when a message comes from an external, like something we'll judge externally, like the container that it's coming out of, a lot of times all of us fall into it. We can discredit it. What's the quote? Judging a book by its cover. Yeah, that's how you say it. Judging a book by its cover. A lot of us can easily fall into that, right? Because we're humans and it's all with the whole psychological stigma, blah, 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 right? So we can easily fall into it. But like I said in my poem as well, resonance is the only relevance. It's all about what resonates with you. It's not so much about who's saying it or how they're saying it or what they look like. It's just if this person is saying something and it resonates with your soul, those are the only things that really matter. And I say the same for, us speaking what's within us out. It's like speak your truth, and that's how you call in your tribe, right? Because you're sending waves out into the universe at your vibration, and people that vibe at your vibration will come to you. And that's for relationships, friendships, and so on and so forth. That's why all of this talk since last month about authenticity, why that's so important. And then with our dark distractions, if it's like an external energy or it's just our thoughts, with us knowing our authentic frequency and our truth, it's like when these things come in, whether in thought form or from other people, we know to set a boundary and to push things like that away from us because it's not vibing at the level that we're at. And we're less likely to fall victim to false judgments of, what other people are saying about us because we know who we truly are, right? So when we talk about changing course and why I want to drive home, it's so important to internalize all of the messages from November and not to make it so much about an external force. Because of course, granted, for many of you, it probably is a really sucky person in your life that's causing drama, right? It could be that. But I still want you to take and understand the power that you have in the face of that situation, circumstance, whatever, or with that person or group of people. Don't take the easy way out and allow yourself to blame another person, whether that's past or present, saying, if it wasn't for them, or I can't ascend, or I can't progress, or I can't be successful because of X, Y, Z. Because even though that may be the truth for some now, if we take, a page out of Sagittarius book, it's all about hope for the future and knowing that the past will only replicate itself in the future if you choose to do so. So again, it's still putting us in this catalytic position of saying that, hey, look back, this is what you've been doing. Hey, you're here. You can choose to stay on the path that you're on, or you can choose to take another path. You see what I mean? So anywho, going into our last message of how that dark energy, so to speak, is transmuted into a light energy and how to practically apply it, we're talking about the blueprint. And this is in alignment with the Three of Pentacles energy. So that means prior to going into December, because I would say that the whole month of December is going to be almost like building your launch pad, so to speak, going into 2020. So it's the clarification of how, like last month we talked about in the recap, going back to basics. We talked about building a foundation. And like for many of you who've already signed up for the values webinar, it's like taking those building blocks, right? So we have a foundation that's set, and now we're looking at what is it that we're really going to build here, right? So we're not going in blind. We're not going to just be like, okay, we're going to do this. So it's more or less getting all parts of you or, people that you're working in accordance with, whether it's friends, family, whatever. And, like if you're married and have kids and stuff like that, it's you working in tangent with them of what it is that you're going to build, because there's like a unit of some sort, or if it's just you, it's you getting clear on what it is that you're going to build. So again, I have up to this point, we've been building blindly, and the thing that has blinded us is fear and pride. Two sides of the same thing, right? Because if we look at it from a sense of like fear, we're internalizing it and we're beating ourselves up on the inside. With pride, the root of it is still that fear or that not enough, that lack mentality, that insecurity, that, shame or guilt or, rejection, but it's manifesting it in a more external sense of like pseudo power, wanting to control and dominate, be the center of the action, so to speak, right? Where a lot of you are going to have epiphanies of your personal worth and value going into December. There's going to be a resurgence of spirituality, spiritual awareness. in your belief system, in your connection to spirit, or evaluating that, it's important to note that you're the hero of your life story. And that kind of aligns with the whole arch nemesis thing, right? But it's putting you back in the driver's seat. It's like all of this is about you. You are the hero of the story, right? And some of you may actually benefit from studying that. Like if you look at the story of like King Arthur, or, Arthurian theory, if you look at the story of the Buddha, all of these things, you read The Alchemist, all of that stuff would be important. Resonance is the only relevance, which is your truth. Release what no longer serves a purpose. A death has occurred. And what I've been told about, like with the death card that came up for a lot of people, this is like the traditional meaning. If we think about death, like there's no goesies, backsies. I was told to share that with you guys. Whatever it is that has died in the month of November, and I don't necessarily mean like a physical death, but whatever it is that has died or ended this month, there is no goesies, backsies. There is no turning back the hands of time. Like this is something that's done, but that shouldn't be anything that would provoke fear or sadness, because whatever ended is for your highest good, and you can find peace in knowing that this thing is never coming back. Or if it's like a transformation in the sense of like, relationships, partnerships, or your personhood, you will never go back or can never go back to the way that things were. And for a lot of people, I see that in the sense of if there was some sense of betrayal or something along those lines, it's like what has been done is so dire that there's literally no possible way that one could see themselves going back to the way that things were. So if you're feeling that, then you're right on point. Another thing that's important is singular focus and channeling your life force energy. And that bounces back to releasing what's no longer serving a purpose, in the sense that things that are not adding to you, they're taking away, right? So if you have things in your life that aren't serving your growth or your ascension, these things are creating that conflicting energy by pulling you backwards. So it's important to get clear on what it is you're trying to go towards. And before that, what it is you're trying to build in the first place, which is why you need your little blueprint, you know what I'm saying? So you know what materials you need and what type of workers you need and so on and so forth. So you understand how it is that you're going forward. So you know what things are in service to this vision and things that are a disservice to the vision. So it's all about understanding the end goal of your specific life, like your soul's calling, your soul's desire, your soul's passion, your soul's purpose. That's really what it is. That's the arrow that's shooting us through 2020. And it's a need to get clear on those things so you know what to bring in and what to discard, in so many words. Only what you do for God, a higher power, or your purpose will last. Think about what you're thinking about and identify your enemies. And even if the enemy lies within you, it's still extremely important to know these things. If we look at enemies as triggers, as weak points, the things that we know our weaknesses are, like the things that you know that you're easily going to fall for, all of these things are important to note and not to deny. It's just like, oh, I used to be like that. That's not me anymore. It's like, nah, you need to be fully aware of these things, right? So anywho, going into our reflection questions for the month. I hope you guys have your pen and paper ready. You know what I'm saying? So question number 1 is, and these are things that are important because, as you guys probably know, your December readings are about to start rolling out. And we started this last month. So these are all things that you guys would want to reflect on as you're going into December. And I would say reflect on them before you watch your signs reading, but it's totally up to you. But anywho, so number 1 is, if the world we build is a monument to our truth, passion, and purpose, what am I building and why? Question number 2, is the life I've built so far a staircase to my goals, dreams, desires, and success? So meaning, like I talk about things being in service, has the life that you've built up to this point, if you were to stop building right now, would the life that you've built up to this point act as a staircase to your end goal? Or is it completely in the opposite direction, right? Is it taking you to the attic or to the basement? You know what I'm saying? And where is your goal? Is it in the attic or the basement? Anywho, what do you spend most of your mental energy focused on? And that's the second part of number 2. What do you spend most of your mental energy focused on? So putting that in a sense of like a day-to-day type of thing, when you find yourself trailing off at work or in conversation, right? What is it that majority of the day you're spent thinking about? That's why it's important to think about what you're thinking about, right? Because a lot of times our thoughts are also on autopilot, right? Now, question number 3. What are your goals for December? What are your dreams for 2020? What do you desire? How do you define success? Number 4, who or what in your life no longer resonates with you? Number 5, every hero has an arch nemesis. Who is yours? And number 6, and this is talking about identifying your enemies, which was the very last point for the blueprint. And this is giving you the how with our last reflection question to identify what your enemies are. What people or areas of your life or self are divided, in conflict, lack, not enough, stagnant, lack growth, and create dis-ease or unrest? Next part of that question is who or what is a light in your life? Brings joy, harmony, peace, abundance, flexibility, freedom, support, growth, and promotes your overall healing and wellness. And those are all of your reflection questions, guys. You know what I'm saying? And what not or whatever. And I would honestly say that everything else it is that you guys need to know, I think in between this, which I'm going to expound on some of this at a later date, not too much later, but I think everything else in that would be in support of this information here would literally be those videos that I have listed under the community tab. All of that information I feel is literally like, you know, a spiritual warfare, like in 2019, right battle mode type of manual, right? So what we've learned from last month in October, this month, in accordance with kind of backtracking of like why it is we're dealing with all of this, I feel having all of that in you guys' mind prior to watching your December video for your specific sign or afterwards, you know, whenever, you know, I feel all of these things are going to work together to give you guys like a really great foundation as you're going into 2020. So that has been your Woke November recap. I hope it's been helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love your freaking face, and I will see you guys sooner than later. Deuces.
Only the name